best players in the world and their best plays. It's sports on 32 FM 94.9.
The best players in the world and their best plays.
Magic again. Messi through 4. Brilliant! Threads it in. And there's the goal from Pedro.
It's sports on 32 FM 94.9.
All right, gradually we are moving away from the football season. But you know that the games for the world of football will still run until the end of this month. Well, it's a big month. You ask me, the UEFA Champions League final, the Europa League final. What else? We would have the Conference League finals. And maybe in the month of May, well, aside the UEFA Men's Champions League finals as well, in the month of May, the Nations League Club World Cup. But then our focus at this moment, well, it's June. Of course, that's the next month after May. And then our focus on the show this afternoon, we'll talk about a bit of tennis stories. We'll talk about basketball stories on the show. Football also. You know, the Flying Eagles of Nigeria, they picked up the ticket to be in Chile. That's later this year. But then who are the other three nations that joined them? And one thing that amazed me yesterday from the quarterfinal games that went down on the continent in Egypt happens to be that all games went straight into extra time. 2 penalties and 2 were decided after extra time. Should that discuss or talk about the level of difficulty between these young talents vying for a spot there at the that's World Cup later this year? Well, definitely, you know the program is a Scoreboard Reloaded right on 32 FM 94.9, and you're listening to the voice of 𝐒𝐈𝐿 𝐶𝐈𝐒s on the program this lovely Tuesday afternoon. But just like I said, our focus would be on tennis, basketball, and a bit of football story on the show this afternoon. Well, for Xabi Alonso, the man says, well, the next job would come out so fast for him. You people will know his next destination. But over the course of the weekend, in their defeat to the hands of Borussia Dortmund, he was asked a question that where does he rank himself as the head coach of Bayer Leverkusen? And I remember that he was the one who led them to their first league title since existence. But then, where does he rank in the managers of Bayer Leverkusen? We will take a listen to the words of Xabi Alonso also on the show this afternoon. Well, this afternoon I'm being joined by Peter, who definitely is my right-hand man for the show this afternoon. And when it's time, you get to listen to his voice. But quickly, aside from the games that went down late yesterday in the world of tennis, there in Italy, the ATP 1000 Masters Tournament, well, we'll discuss that this morning from the games that went down by 10 a.m. Jack Draper defeated Corentin Moutet, that's in 2-1. After dropping the first set, he came back. He will be up against that Corendolo of Argentina by 350. And then Alexander Zverev will be up against that Fuse. Tommy Paul will be up against for all of these stars. And remember that this is just a build-up also to the big one set to go down. That's later next month. Later at the end of this month. Yeah. That's the French Open, the Roland Garros. And then there's a big news also from the world of tennis. Well, late last year, they said they are going to be partners as a coach and also as a player. But at this point, the big announcement is that Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray, they will no longer be working together. And the decision said to be by mutual agreement means Andy Murray will not be by Novak Djokovic's side when he chases an 8th Wimbledon title there in July. Novak Djokovic, a 24-time Grand Slam champion, who joined the forces with Murray in the month of November. That was in the year 2024. And under Murray, the Serbian reached the semi-finals of the Australian Open, ultimately retiring injured after losing the first set. But then we know that the season also has been marred by injuries for Novak Djokovic, whom earlier this year started as a world number 3. But you ask for where Novak Djokovic is now, well, he is outside the top 5 of the ATP rankings. Well, such news are coming out from the world of tennis at this point in time. Peter Ademore and Novak Djokovic parting ways after just 6 months.
Yeah, the marriage wasn't expected to last for long. You saw the body language of both when the announcement came out sometime last year. We saw how they both did at the first Grand Slam, a couple of ATPs, and the body language was there, very mutual. But you know that it's not something that will last or stay for long. And it was good, it was worth it for the Scots, talking about Andy Murray, who actually took that time. Don't forget his mom also was his coach before when Andy was playing. Andy and his brother, Jamie, were playing tennis. Their mom was their coach. And it's good to see now that it's good to see now that Andy also tasted a bit of what it means to be a coach. And not just coaching an ordinary player. You're talking about a man who has got the most Grand Slam in terms of the men's singles. So it's a good moment. Both enjoyed it, and they came out to say, you know what, we'll part. We'll wait to see what will be the next man to coach Novak. And he's been struggling season in and out for him in the last 1 year. Wasn't able to win any Grand Slam last year. We saw how it all went down between Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. Had the Grand Slam apiece last year. And this year, the start of the year, have also not been good for the Serbians. So I just watch to see. And at a point in time, you notice one thing when these players hit 33, 34, and that we saw with the Swiss maestro Roger, we saw also with Nadal, they begin to pick the ATPs they want to be involved in. So I will not be surprised if Novak also starts doing that as he begins to wind down on his fantastic career. But like I said the other time, it was a fantastic marriage between the Scots and the Serbians.
Well, definitely been a fantastic marriage. But then still talking about a bit of tennis stories. 𝐂𝐿 she became the youngest player to reach a 4 WTA 1000 quarterfinals on clay. With that a straight set victory over Emma Raducanu in Rome. That was late yesterday. And the American said that she is growing more comfortable on the surface with French Open just around the corner. Well, she has won 8 of her last 9 matches on outdoor red clay, losing only to world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka in the Madrid Open final earlier this month. But we'll move away from that also and talk about a bit of basketball stories from the games that went on in the early hours of today. While Jalen Brunson scored 39 points as the New York Knicks defeated the Boston Celtics 121-113 to leave the reigning NBA champions on the brink of elimination from the playoffs. Well, how bad can it be for them? Jason Tatum, while he was carried off in Game 4 with a leg injury. Well, but a 3-1 series deficit isn't why the visitors' locker room at Madison Square Garden was silent for a half hour after their contest yesterday. And it's because of the news that is surrounding that Jason Tatum, who had to be carried off the court late in the fourth quarter after suffering a non-contact lower leg injury. Well, remember that in the quarter finals, we'll talk about the conference playoffs, he was injured at a point also, and then he came back. But this is him suffering another injury. And then 3-1, it's a best of 7. They've played 4, and it remains that's 3. So how can they do it to level the games? Just one more game, if lose for them or loss for them, they are out of defending their title. Yeah,
and the next, that will be the 5th game, will be very crucial. If they get to win, then they will hope for another one again. But this kind of news, when you see your star player get injured, you ask yourself, where will that inspiration come from? Who's going to lead the charge as they head into Game 5? The same also I spoke about in the morning, involving the other game in the Western Conference, where Golden State Warriors, lost to Minnesota Timberwolves, and that also is advantage. Wolves, as we speak right now, 3-1, they lead in that series. So it's crucial now for both Golden State Warriors and of course for Boston Celtic to see what they do in Game 5. And then you begin to wonder and say, for Warriors with the likes of Steph Curry.
Steph Curry has been injured.
Yes,
He missed injured. 3 games.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to match what him being injured, and of course for what's the other man now that you mentioned his name?
Jason Tatum.
Tatum, that's out injured. You begin to see how they've been impactful for the side, and now that they're out of it, we saw how they're not winning games. So it's going to be a tough one. Speak to them, let them know how important it is. For SAMIES, it's just one game. And these other teams, also talking about New York Knicks and, of course, for Minnesota Timberwolves, they just know just one more win, they will be into the next stage of this year's basketball playoff going down. So we'll just wait to see how the Western Conference will pan out in the next few nights.
Well, as we wait to look for how that can be, well, for the Warriors superstar, that's Steph Curry, he said he doesn't expect to return to the court for their games. But then he was responding to a comment by teammates Draymond Green that the Warriors and Curry are not going to try the Superman thing, and if the star isn't fully ready to return to action. But we'll see how that goes. There are games set to go down. That's in the early hours of today as well, when we talk about basketball. And for those games set to go down just in the early hours of today, we would have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who also are losing to the hands of the Indiana Pacers.
Early hours of Wednesday.
Early hours of tomorrow.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
early
Wednesday.
hours of tomorrow. Did I say today?
Yes, Wednesday.
Early hours of tomorrow,
Yeah.
the Cleveland Cavaliers will be up against the Indiana Pacers, and they would be open to actually look at it in Game 5 and say, well, for the Pacers,
They also lead
they want
three
to win.
games to
They
one.
want to win, but for the Cleveland Cavaliers,
Yeah.
they will be open to just extend. Let's see how far we can go with this catch-up we are trying to play.
At the moment, Indiana Pacers leads by
3-1.
By 3-1. So Cavaliers is over to them now to see how they can get this 5th game at home tonight. But again, you just say to yourself, how come these teams are struggling?
Now, the Oklahoma City Thunders against the Denver Nuggets as well. This game is tied.
Yeah, this one is tied.
Going into
It's
Game
tied.
5.
Yeah, that makes it. This one makes it a bit interesting because
We definitely get to
don't-
Game 7.
Yes, get to Game 7. Hopefully, can get to Game 7, can get to Game 6, and it's done. But it's 2 games apiece as we speak now, and this a little bit better because even if you don't get to win the early hours of Wednesday morning, you are fine, you are cool. Unlike the other 3 that I mentioned the other time, Golden State Warriors, Cleveland Cavaliers, they just have to find a way to get a win. If you don't get a win, SAMIES, then au revoir.
Well, let's see how that goes for all of these sides. But we move away from basketball stories now and quickly jump straight into the Under-20 African Cup of Nations games are going on there in Egypt. Well, 4 sides, they've picked up the tickets to be in Chile. And you talk about those 4 nations who have picked up their tickets. You have the Flying Eagles of Nigeria. You have South Africa. You have Morocco. And then you have Egypt. When I saw the seeding, of course, I knew this was how it was going to pan out. And I said, South Africa against the Nigeria again. But Ghana, they were out of the competition. West African sides, or South African sides, against we see Morocco against Egypt as well. The North Africans are playing against each other. So these games are set to go down later this week. And for the Flying Eagles of Nigeria, how were you really proud of what they pulled out yesterday?
Yes, did. I was watching and expecting that we'll wrap up in 90. We could not wrap up in 120.
So I saw one thing. The Senegalese goalkeeper was adjudged the man of the match yesterday.
Well, I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know, maybe the man who gave him or the people sat down and gave him the man of the match. Maybe they were high on a particular kind of drugs. I don't know. But from what I saw yesterday, who else do you want to give that to? In the shootouts that we both watch, one hit the bar.
Yes, he saved 2. One hit the bar.
Yeah, so I don't know where which is coming from. It was a game we played them well in that game. We could not, like I said yesterday when we were bringing listeners up to speed with that game, we could not convert our chances. We were poor in the last third. Marksmanship was not good enough. But when you get to the shootout, our boys were decisive and they got the job done. And Harcourt, of course, the goalkeeper will be the one you'll be counting on to keep some of these balls out, and it did happen. So for us, we've qualified for the World Cup because for Zubairu, that would have been the most important objective going to the Nations Cup, for them to go get the ticket to the World Cup. If we now go ahead to win our 8th title, it is Jara. But for now, we've qualified. Now, you said the other time, this is South Africa again. South Africa labored last night to get a win against DR Congo. Game also went into extra time. So
all games
went into extra time. It goes to show you that game yesterday was a final, because you know a win for
something was on the line.
Yes, qualifying for the World Cup. So it was about how you want to defend. The Ghanaians came from 2 goals down against Egypt to level 2-2, and that game got us into extra time until the Egyptians scored 3-2. In
5-4 penalty.
Went into penalty shootout. The Ghanaians lost their second kick.
5-4.
Yes,
I think it was
scored all 5 of theirs. So for the Moroccans also against Sierra Leone, it went into extra time. Sierra Leone got a man sent off in that game. The Moroccans scored a goal, was chalked off for offside. They end up scoring because the Sierra Leones could not defend well. End up to score an own goal, and the Moroccans qualify. So it's a good tie. It's well balanced for me. South Africa against Nigeria. The rivalry is there. Egypt against Morocco. We know what this brings on the table when it comes to North African football. And Egypt are the hosts.
Well, definitely. The Egyptians are being the host. They also wanted to host and win. And for Nigeria, remember that this is also going on for them.
We play the first semi-final.
We are definitely, that's by 4 p.m. On Thursday before Morocco and Egypt take onto the field later by 7 p.m. But we also move away from that and talk about a bit of a European football story now, where it's all about Real Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, Carlo Ancelotti, and Xabi Alonso, the man who was a loyal servant also to Carlo Ancelotti. I think, that was right with Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. So you played under the manager twice. But then we talk about this manager. It has been announced, and this man has been confirmed, the head coach of Seleção of Brazil, the Samba Boys. Well, the array of stars they have, and they are going to be working under Carlo Ancelotti. And Carlo Ancelotti also became the first European manager, the first man outside Brazil to manage the Samba Boys.
So the question here, SAMIES, is where is all of this headed? I have never, and I've checked, it has never been to see a European manager coach Brazil. So what does this speak to Brazilian football? Because the national team, or let me say the CBF, the body in charge of Brazil football, were desperately looking for the signature of Carlo Ancelotti. They've been waiting for him for over 18 months, and now they got him. So the question is, how did Brazil get to this level? We've seen that with England, so it's no longer new. They had Fabio Capello, they had Sven-Göran Eriksson, now they have Thomas Tuchel, so they are used to going foreign. But how come the Brazil, the country with time as where you play the best, where they play the best of football, with the samba mix, how come they are turning to an Italian to coach the national side of Brazil? It gets me.
They are more. You talk about Italian and that's Brazilians. I think there is a bit of a connection between both nations.
Okay.
There's a bit of connection between both nations.
Is it about the connection now?
But I look at it. I want to look at it from the part where I look at most of Brazilians ex-internationals. What do they do with their career after football?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to play the game and coach or manage.
Look at remember the days of Tete? I think Tete, yes. I've forgotten Scolari.
Yeah.
So you look at all of these guys.
No,
Scolari was
Argentina.
Yeah. And yet you look at all of these generations of managers.
Yeah.
Do we even have anyone who can replace them within South American football?
The thing is that you never knew who Scolari was, except you follow Spanish football a long time to know that they played for Deportivo La Corona. So it was not your household name footballer. But look at what he has done. They won this Copa back to back, and it's getting them play in the way that the nation now love to watch the national team play. So for Brazil, you don't need a Romario to come and coach. You don't need a Bebeto to come and coach, because those guys might not be certified in the first place. They might not be interested in coaching. But you must look inward. But
does this also talk about the level of exposure of the Brazilian league now? Because we know Brazilian league was up there before.
Yeah.
But now, what do we even say about the Brazilian league?
It's still up there. your European club side will go there and poach the 17, 18, 19-year-old boys to come play in Europe. And we saw what most of them have turned into. So for me, I think Brazil should have looked more, search more inward and get someone to replace the River. But hey, it's Carlo they wanted. They've got Carlo now. Carlo is interested in the job. He wants the job to, because for him, that is adding to CV. So he's not leaving Real to go coach a smaller side. He's leaving Real to go coach Seleção of Brazil, a team that wants to win the World Cup. They love to win the World Cup, but things aren't really looking that way anymore. So he's going there now is to salvage things. He's going there now is to get Rafinha, Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Pedro, all of them playing. All of them, if Neymar is fit also, Marquinhos, all of them playing the way Brazil wants to see their national team play. They cannot understand how they've gotten to this point, and their biggest rival in world football, Argentina, is flourishing. Is doing well. Won the World Cup, won the Copa. Keep beating Brazil home and away. Anywhere you take the game to, Argentina is certain of beating Brazil. Now that they have Carlo Ancelotti in charge, they will be hoping for one thing: get us back to playing the way we're playing. Get us back to winning ways. And wait to see how they qualify for the World Cup, and if they also go win the World Cup in the US in 2026.
Well, let's see how that goes for the Samba Boys of Brazil. But then this man is leaving a void within a Real Madrid Football Club, and there is a man whose name has been on the lips of many. His name is Xabi Alonso. He's a Spaniard, and then he played for Real Madrid. Then we want to look at how this man can be, but then he went into managerial action. That's I think 2 seasons ago, and then this is where he is now. He won the Bundesliga.
Actually, it's been managing before 2 years. He's been managing the Real Sociedad youth side, because maybe some say he played for Real Sociedad before he jumped to Liverpool. From Liverpool, he head to Real. From Real to Bayern. And of course, you know how it all ended for him. Won the World Cup in 2010 with the national side. Won the Euros 28 and also 2012. I think that the man who completed football. Yeah, he did. And Xabi Alonso is one of those footballers that I don't want to say it's dirty, but if you use the word dirty for him,
he puts his life on the line.
He's a tactical player. Can get you out.
Now, when you talk about Xabi Alonso, another name in that era comes to mind. I just think of Bastian, also Schweinsteiger. And I say, okay, this guy is
decent players. They
know when to take actions.
Yeah, proper player. And of course, as a manager, also cool guy, calm, collected, want to get his job done, and you can't take anything away from him. Won the German Bundesliga, finished second in second season. He never struggled. Unlike Michel, the Michel I'm talking about is the head coach of Girona Football Club. Did so well with Girona, got them playing.
But can we talk? I think for me, I would actually give an excuse. Probably they didn't invest well. They sold players.
They sold Dovbyk, the Ukrainian.
They sold players. Dovbyk, Savio. Wells. They sold another player within that fold.
Maybe those two were the biggest.
They were the one getting the goals.
They all move about 60 million euros. But not signed. But they never signed a major one when they went on to play the Champions League. So excuse of being non-signing players might not come to
it's
because the ones he used to qualify.
Consistency, he had
60 days window to sign players.
See,
they might not be
now you look at it that Savio was the owner
who was Savio before he moved to City?
The owner of that's Pep Guardiola's brother.
I know the Girona and Man City. Yes.
So you look at it, you're weakening one side to strengthen one side.
I still don't want to go about this talk about weak. Who was Girona before they started playing the Champions League? Nobody knew them. He got them to that point where they have to go beat Barca home and away. When they qualify for the Champions League, we saw how they were pushing Real for the league. Nobody knew Michel. Maybe some in Spain will say, okay, fine, they knew him. But in terms of European football, that name will just say, oh, Michel, and then you go check up on him, and then you start watching Girona football.
But maybe in the past, in the last,
and then you know the Brazilian.
In the last few games, he has not been on the touchline because he was hospitalized, and then he's just back to action.
And they have a game tonight. Like I said in the morning, is a season where they want to savage, they want to get points, they want to retain the La Liga status because it doesn't look good for them. Playing Champions League football in that stadium brought joy. But I'm just trying to compare Michel and Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso, that was his first major task for Bayer Leverkusen. He went all beaten and now won the league and finishing second in the second season. Come on, kudos to
Let's take a listen to the words of Xabi Alonso while speaking about where he ranks as a Bayer Leverkusen manager.
Hi, Jabi. You talked about great moment. In 3 years, you created special memories here. First year, you reached the Europa Cup semi-final. Second year, you won the first ever Bundesliga title for this club and the DFB Pokal. This year, you've not won, but you've stayed second and you've secured Champions League berth. As you move on, do you consider yourself the best manager this club has seen up till now, at least?
For sure, I'm not gonna put that title on me. For sure, not. I'm not that. I don't love myself that much. So I am happy. I'm proud. Yes, because all the seasons have been different, as you have mentioned. The first one was the most difficult one. The second one was the dream season, and this one has been very challenging. But overall, I have. We can be proud of what we have achieved and where was the club and where is right now the club. I think that there has been a progress, and to be part of it makes me happy.
All right, today listen to the words of Xabi Alonso. Well, such an humble lad, not lad, man. But then let's go straight to England and talk about Nottingham Forest. The Nigerian international, he underwent a surgery for an abdominal injury yesterday after he clattered into a post. That's during their 2-2 Premier League draw with Leicester City. That was on Sunday. But just before we leave the show, for Nigeria, for Ibadan or your state,